The following is a list of Moors who have been kidnapped and are being held for a demand of income. The demand of income is being made by against the family, as well as through fraudulent submissions of documents alleging that they are caring for the people in some sort of long-term care fashion. These Moors have been kidnapped literally off the street by employees of various corporations that are guised as county, city, town, township, borough. These names that we have all been mentally conditioned to believe are government are not. They are exactly what they say they are. They are municipal corporations. And as such, if you do the research, you will find that they are foreign corporations on American soil. Therefore, they do not have standing nor jurisdiction to make a demand of income from the Aboriginal indigenous people or any people on American soil. This making their actions criminal. However, as Moors, we must bring these crimes to the forefront via civil complaints against the unalienable constitutional treaty secured rights of the people, Aboriginal indigenous Moors of this land. So we start out with our sister RVBey, who was kidnapped through a joint venture between Memphis Corporation and Shelby Corporation under the purview of Tennessee. Now, we say under the purview of Tennessee, which is a union state, because every union state is bound and obligated to protect the people from foreign and domestic invasion. We then have Dawood Ill under the purview of Arkansas. And if we don't have the municipal corporation that actually did the kidnapping, then we just reference the union state that is bound and obligated to protect the people. We have Amir Moslemin Ill and Kusu Ra Kushbey under the purview of Missouri. We have Asar Patan Amin Ra Bey under the purview of Ohio. We have Jeremy Paler Ill, Terry Thorne Bey, J. Mikal Brooks Bey, Joseph Kanaday Ill, Kush Amir Bunch Ill, Emmanuel Billings Bey, Yasin Khalik Alamin Ill, Michael Curry Bey, all being held under the purview of North Carolina. Noble Crisco Ill under the purview of New Jersey. Messiah Aziz Ill and Crystal Ill, both kidnapped through a joint venture between Mercer, Freehold, and Trenton Corporation under the purview of New Jersey. We're still waiting on an update of the infant baby of Patricia Bey, which was kidnapped by the Atlantic Corporation under the purview of New Jersey. We have Eldridge Teron Fisher Ill and Martise Sevion Ill under the purview of Indiana. Solomon Ill Bey and Mumi Abu Bey under the purview of Texas. William Barrett Ill under the purview of Virginia. Bomani Abidwil Ill, kidnapped by the Chesapeake Corporation under the purview of Virginia. Chere Bey, kidnapped under the purview of West Virginia. Thomas Lee Bey, kidnapped under the purview of California. Victor Eduardo Evaye Juarez Ill, kidnapped by Harlem Corporation under the purview of Georgia. And then last but not least, I have one last more. Twain Bey, kidnapped. Let's see, I'm not sure if I have the information of who. Oh, kidnapped by Harnett Corporation under the purview of North Carolina. So there we have Moors that have been kidnapped and are being held hostage by employees of various corporations on American soil, which is a violation of the American Constitution, and it is a treaty violation. And being that we are talking about Moorish Americans, Aboriginal indigenous to this land, who are being kidnapped by foreign employees of a foreign corporation on American soil, this makes this an international issue, because you have two nations with one nation warring against another. Therefore, this is an international issue. If you have a family member near or far within your immediate family, or one of the family that you know and you would like them added to this list, please send an email to MHHS-Eyes-Wide-Open@gmail.com. In the subject line, put kidnapped Moor, and please provide us with their free national appellation, the municipal corporation that the employee is operating through that kidnapped them, along with the union state that this corporation is in purview to. All righty. Thank you very much.
All righty. Islam. This is welcome first to MHHS Eyes Wide Open. This is your host, Annie Ida Ill, along with my co-host, RVBey.
Islam, peace and love to all.
Ms. Rain Olive Ill. Yes, I can hear you. Wow.
Peace and love. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you fine.
Right. So that was my fault once again. All right.
That's okay. And Cujo Adwa Ill.
Peace and love. Islam, Moors. Islam to the panel.
All right. Before we get into it, I just give everyone an update. Twain Bay has been liberated. I got email notifications last week, and I have to update that recording and add Tahuti Bay. What did he take on, the Bay or the L?
On L.
The L, yeah.
L. He got Tahuti. Tahuti L. Yeah, I have got to add him, but I don't have any specifics as to like what corporate municipal corporation employees kidnapped him near what union state. So I will be adding him.
Pennsylvania.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right.
You know what? So, I also have another one that you need. I forgot. I know you mentioned it a while back, but I may have forgotten to ask you to add it permanently, and that's Anwar Sawithan in Pennsylvania Territory Corporation.
All right.
Well, not for nothing, but why permanently? Is he doing life?
No, I didn't mean permanently. I meant she mentioned it one time because we mentioned it, but I forgot to ask her to add it to the list. Ongoing list.
Oh,
that's what I mean.
All right.
Oh God, no! Take that back. No.
Yeah.
Right,
I'll text it to you.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I was going to ask you to do that. All right, so welcome all to the MHHS Eyes Wide Open. Haven't sent a big shout out to our internet listeners. The chat room is open, and a big shout out going to our family listening over in Great Britain, Japan, South Africa, the Netherlands, Islam, Brother Albasat. See, family over there in the Philippines. We got family listening down in Barbados, Trinidad, these are all corporations where they're near these corporate entities. They're not at or in these corporate entities. All right? So they're near these corporations. Family listing near the corporation of Venezuela, Mexico, Brazil, Cuba, and family that we have yet to connect with near various corporate locations. Thank you so much for joining and listening and supporting. Big thank you to our callers who call in every week, filling up the phone lines before the broadcast even begins. Thank you so much for joining, for listening. I am trusting that everyone is taking this information and growing with it, because we so need everybody to be prepared, for yourself, not for other people, for yourself. I cannot say it enough. The prophet gave us enough to save a nation, but he strongly suggested that we save ourselves. And you know what? That's so real, because there's no way that you can put information into anybody else's brain except yours. So if you're trying to do something other than that, you're going to be running into a brick wall, and that wall, after a time, will start to hurt. This broadcast, we want to touch on one thing briefly before we get into the broadcast. And Roz, I think you wanted to mention.
Yes, I most certainly do. I got an email. Yeah, and I know Liz has a comment on it to make some verification, and you might as well have some comment as well. Listen, we keep going over, and you mention it all the time. These people are corporations, and yes, they have grown large, and yes, there is the case law that says that these people calling themselves government are corporations, and corporations have no parity with the real. What I have found is that some of our Moors who are coming into their consciousness and claiming would rather go into figuring out how to do commerce with them when we allow them to do commerce, how to do commerce with them rather than to be a national flesh and blood being and then do whatever it is they want to do. So instead of the supreme issue, which is to enforce the law of the land, all right, which is written in the spirit of divine law, and which is our salvation for certain in terms of the answer to these corporations who have grown so big and people are indoctrinated to believe that they are government, inclusive of their huge security, which are police or policy enforcers. They wear the uniforms. This is where Title 18 comes in, Chapter 2, 242 and 243, I believe it is, when two or more go in disguise. All of that is meant for those who do that, because the Constitution was established, and you say it all the time, to keep corporations from molesting the natural people. Our people would rather figure out how to do what they do, which is, in fact, commerce and corporate activity, rather than to be the flesh and blood being and go into it from that perspective. And I tell you, what happens is you make them fat. You give them finance. You keep them alive by doing that. And this is why they've been able to grow as large as they have and trick you into thinking that, in fact, they are government, because of our previous lack of knowledge. Now that we have knowledge, the real deal is to enforce the law, Beys. All right? Beys, your law enforcers, not commerce enforcers. All right? Now, we are, of course, the original merchants, and we have to understand that doing business or doing commerce or being a merchant is nothing particularly wrong with that. But trying to fight corporations who are violating you with jumping into bed with the commerce stuff is absolutely ridiculous. And, that is not going to help. Now, what that does do for the person who gets involved is those are people, for the most part, who really don't have knowledge. And I'm going to show you how they don't in a minute. I'm going to read something to you. What it does for them is it gives them a quick fix today. Those are the people that I'm going to get mine. They think they're going to get theirs, but that's what they're thinking. That's how they're thinking. They're not thinking of family. They're not thinking of their own children. They're not thinking of nation. They're not thinking of none of that, because if they were, they would realize that corporations have no parity with the flesh and blood, and that is not the manner in which we would stop them from doing what they do. Look, if they want to choose, I was talking to a brother, Lincoln, many people may know him, and they said, look, they've chosen to be governed by the Bar Association. That's their choice, but that's not the law of the land. Your choice is not to be governed by that, because they're all in cahoots. All these people all of these entities that you think are government are really independently. They are corporations, and they have hooked up with each other, and they have created a network of corporations intermingled, colluding to rape you of your liberties, and it looks like they are government, and they've done it saying they're government, when they're really not. They're governing something, but they're not government for you, and they're violating the law of the land, especially when they open up meeting rooms and call them courts. Even if they are doing commerce in them, all right, they can do that all day long, but they don't have judicial authority. So how do they get to open up little meeting rooms and stuff for themselves and their statutes, their ordinance, their policies that are all corporate in a meeting room and not a court, and then bring you in as if they're a court? It's laughable. It's to them it's laughable, and it's injurious to the rest of the flesh and blood beings. However, we have found out, if we didn't know before, they really do not care about flesh and blood beings. We have to understand that they themselves are genetically engineered, really. So they don't have the same natural instincts where these things are concerned, for the most part. I'm not saying that all of them don't. I'm not saying that there's not some qualities of humanity existing. But when it comes to corporations, there is no quality. There is no quality. There is no quality of humanity and issues regarding humanity. How could it possibly exist when they're corporations? That's not what corporations live and breathe for, to have inequalities of humanity. I don't care what they say to you. They look at all things as corporations, property, chattel property. I'm not even talking about slavery with a whip and chain. No, this is all bureaucratic. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about that if something is a corporation, number one, they cannot issue anything to anyone except for another corporation. So here we are, instead of making clear that we're flesh and blood beings, we want to figure out how to jump in bed and do commerce with them. Why? Because we believe in our mind, while we're becoming conscious, or to some degree, that they in fact are the authority. Look, they are corporations pretending to be what they are not, and they have, yes, grown large, but they are not the authority. You know, it appears that way because their security system is so large. They've got cars that match. They've got uniforms. They're all over the place. They crawl all over your neighborhood and stuff, but they still are who they are. Can you stand up to that? Now, and don't think that they don't use the law specifically when it's good for them to do so. I remember a while ago, Mitch, you had mentioned, and it came up again when I was having my conversation with Lincoln, that one of the reasons they get away with murder of our people, you know, and it really hit me, again, as it's becoming very clear with us that they murder people. They always have been doing it, but now everybody knows, is because of the specificity of law. In other words, all law is specific. So therefore, they get charged with first, second, and third-degree murder, which has to be proven that there's an intent to do so, when they should be getting charged with aggravated homicide or aggravated murder. All right?
Yes. And just for the record, I spoke about that on our Sons of Allah class, July 21st, 2016, Gregorian Modified Calendar. Big acknowledgement to this platform, MHHS-Eyes Wide Open, and the Brethren Najib Zavar L on his YouTube channel. He has it posted there for anybody to go back and listen.
All right. Thank you for sharing that. Now, that right there means that we have to know the law, no matter what they're doing with it, twisting and turning, because here's the deal. If someone who had a family member murdered or whatever like that, and then they go and get an attorney to as has been done, get an attorney to defend them, well, guess what? The attorney is on that hook too. So they're going to know, oh, yeah, we're going to charge them with first-degree murder, second-degree murder, third-degree. They're all playing a joke because they know that, especially in an appeal, which is what they always do, and they always seem to get off on it, that when you deal with appeals, they're definitely dealing with constitutional principles and law. And at that point, you have to have the intent to murder. So therefore, they're charging them wrong. So what is missing is, instead of us going into commerce, we need to enforce and learn the law. That's what we need to do. That's what's going to protect us, because when you get into corporations and commerce that is connected in that respect, right, then you get into them making an ordinance tomorrow that they can change tomorrow. I'm telling you, that's what they do. This is why Article 6 of the Constitution says that if any state makes any rule, law, ordinance, or statute, it's right in there now, that is in opposition or abrogates or violates. Abrogates means violates. What is already established in this law of the land, it has no standing, because it was already known that they would do this stuff. So stop diving into commerce thinking that's your freedom train, because it's not. You know, you can go down that path but for so long, and they're going to twist and turn on you. We need to stand fearless, independent, and know law, and enforce the law of the land, because it's not going anywhere. They'll tell you, oh, yeah, well, we're suspending the Constitution. They can't suspend it. Oh, well, we're in martial law. It doesn't apply to you Aboriginal, indigenous Moors. It doesn't. What does apply, we don't seem to want to invest enough in terms of studying to enforce it. Because in the end, and at the end of the day, that's the only thing, because they still use it for themselves when applicable, because all law is specific. So one of the things I recognize is that, again, we get commerce so confused just because the federal government or federal institution, association, whatever, has established the driver's license instrument as a for those who are, in fact, doing commerce. And that's their program, and the states are allowed to participate in it, and then the states have tricked everybody into making them think they've got to have it to do so, you know, doesn't mean that we should try to figure out how to, you know, get involved with that. It is a time now to stand on all of our liberties in that respect, because they're going to twist anyone up even more now than they have before. Which, the counter to that was, as Prophet Noble Drew Ali said, well, y'all, you need each other, but you're going to need each other more, because they're going to start twisting that even more. They know what's happening, and they know that we're becoming conscious. When I say they, I'm going to be specific. I mean corporations that are theming as government. That's who I'm talking about. How do you know who they are? Check them out. As Anahita said all along, they're charters. If you do the work, they're charters. How does a charter have anything to do with judicial authority? They don't. How do you know? Read the Constitution. What part? Article 3. Why? Because it deals with judicial authority. That's why. So now, so they're pretending to have meeting rooms. And, you can let them have all that, but it's not for us. If we would come together, I'm telling you, this stuff could, with knowledge of this, it could be done overnight. But now, here's a beautiful example of how twisted we are. Now, I'm not going to say who this is from because it matters not. It really matters not. The content is what matters because this is what people are thinking. Okay, it says, my friend who used to be a part of the temple says all that really matters is commerce. And that is where the correction of name documents should come in. Now, I can't believe that anybody who used to be part of the temple would say some crap like that. And then it says, in regards to tribal nations, he says that our names, RVBey, which are not names, by the way, their titles, are part of the 5 civilized tribes, and he names the tribes. Well, guess what? How could it be that the RVBey, the Day, the Owl, and Ali are titles, and that the appointment or decision of who were civilized tribes, of which there were 5, comes after that, but they've got it the other way around? Just because they said, oh, we're going to recognize 5 civilized tribes, what's that got to do with anything? Because, first of all, tribal names, as most people call them Indian names, which they're not, even those who have claimed to be Indians don't want to be called Indians anymore. They want to be called American natives. They understand it's a label. So how does them having these Cherokee, Creek, Seminole, Choctaw, etc., which Choctaw means Choctaw people, and they are not pronouncing Cherokee the way it's supposed to be, how do they get to assign you as civilized when you are the mothers and lineal descendants of the mothers and fathers of civilization and civilization principles? So this is what this person says. And then it says, this is really glorious here. This is his friend. He says those names, we're talking about the RVBey today and the Cherokee, the Choctaw, etc., can be found in their history, and you can't find them in Moorish history. See, this is the backwards thinking. What the heavens? So in their history, whose history is he talking about? Because those who have been labeled Indians, and that we call Cherokee, Choctaw, Creek, Seminole, etc., all of that, they're all Moors. They're all from the Moorish family. Those are the family names of Moors. And this person comes out of the temple, okay? And then they go into the stupidity of, he goes on to speak about the term Moorish in the same regards as Jewish. Well, first of all, the Jews, really the Hebrews, those are Moors, by the way, just as a side thing. But his example is that it's a kind of, but it's not really it. Now, you're Moor. Anything that pertains to Moors is Moorish. That's simple. That shouldn't even be complicated. So, Miss, I think you wanted to add something to that, but I wanted to just read that to show you the mindset of our people. They have not studied enough to really get what it is they need to know to move forth and stand in their flesh and blood being, whatever their family appellation is. Whatever it is, it's not Indian, that's for sure. So, and this Moorish thing and the 5 tribes, it's just ridiculous, like this ish thing. And that's all I wanted to add to show you that, to say that it's all that matters is commerce. That is such a sellout. Such an injury to the natural flesh and blood beings to say that. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, let me first say this. And please feel free to elaborate on this, but this is just something to put it in perspective, right? They say they don't honor anything that they consider outside of the 5 civilized Indian tribes.
Right.
But now we know we're not Indian, but let's look at this. Every Thanksgiving, every so-called Thanksgiving, every 4th Thursday in the month that's called November, who are they paying homage to, right? the Aboriginals who taught them how to grow in the Mid-Atlantic region, you know, of North America, you know, Metacomet, okay? So they weren't of those quote-unquote 5 tribes that they say they recognized: Cherokee, Chickasaw, Choctaw, Creek, Seminole. They wasn't a part of those tribes, but they still acknowledge that every year. Now, let me not get caught in that, you know what I mean? Because, you know, it's just something to put it in perspective of who they really recognize and who they really don't. So, again, you know, this history has been emphasized many times over. If we get into books like Ancient and Modern Britons, if we get into books like Sex and Race, Volume 1 through 3, you know, Nature Knows No Color Lines, this wouldn't even be a conversation. So let me just say this, and I'm quoting from Ancient and Modern Britons, Volume 1, page 375. It says, in 1676, the native races of what they're calling today New England, quote unquote, were spoken of indifferently as Indians and Moors. And they say our British Indians, quote unquote, are also remembered as Moors. Also, RVBey was trying to tell you that with the Journals of the Moorish Paradigm. Pardon me, I don't remember exactly which volume, but the information, you know what I mean? We're talking about information, not necessarily the people. So the information was already presented. You know, have you studied those things? Are you looking into those things? It's good if you're inquiring, but you need to know where to look, because the reference points have been given times over. So, you know, like Ani was saying earlier, you know, you can't put it in people's head. All you can do is give them reference points. And if they don't go check the reference points, well, you know, it is what it is. So to continue back to what it was saying on page 375, Ancient and Modern Britons, Volume 1, it says, therefore, Gross is virtually telling us that large companies of Moors roamed up and down the country rather more than 100 years ago, taking very considerable contributions from the farming classes and others. Now, I think that farming classes and others might be, you know, interrelated with other subjects of tonight, subject matters of the conversation. All right? So Moors was taxing them on the land that they, you know, give Thanksgiving for, etc. Now, you know, as far as Moors being connected to the tribes, that's one reference, you know, but we also got to keep in mind that the definition of Moor, as far as it relating to, you know, any dark-skinned person, you know, any melanated person, also it's synonymous with the definition of American, you know, as far as the Aboriginals or copper-complexion people. So, I mean, you know, to even try to, like, you know, dispute that, talking about the same people. These are appellations that apply solely to us, not the black man as far as in its original sense of the Europeans being the black people who had no identity, thus, you know, took on others' appellations, such as, you know, American, you know, such as Moors. You know, they do that in a secret society. We all seen the pictures on RVBey. They got the Fez, Islam, El-Bey, you know, the whole get down. So we know they about identity theft, identity stealing, or borrowing crowns or whatnot. But I say that to say, and I'm going to leave this conversation on this note, a quote from J. Rogers, Sex and Race, Volume 3, page 218. He goes in and says, a dark-skinned race inhabited what he was calling the United States, but we know it's really all of North America. So he says a dark-skinned race inhabited the United States for probably hundreds of thousands of years. When was the BIA established? What year did they create the Bureau of Indian Affairs? I know it doesn't supersede our existence on this land, so it really doesn't even matter. You know what I mean? So what I'm saying is we've been here hundreds of thousands of years, if not longer than that. So it says it was almost talking about the people that was here, the dark-skinned people that was here It said it was almost wiped out by the European. But if it is the type that's adapted physically to the soil and climate, speaking about the dark-skinned people as a whole, will eventually return no matter what artificial laws or restrictions are imposed, end quote. J. Rogers, Sex and Race, Volume 3, page 218. So, we are the children of one father and the breast of one mother have given this up. We are all the same people. That's it. It's the bottom line. Moor's been in North America, South America, Central America, from time immemorial. And, if anybody is confused about that, it's a lot of studying to do, but there's a lot of information out there at the same time. So I would suggest you sit down, study a little bit more, you know what I mean, and really recognize that they're playing you. So on the other note of, RVBey Day, etc., being a part of the 5 civilized tribes, I'm not saying that they're not, but, Moors are so vast as one nation. Tribes and nations are not the same thing. Tribes are fractions of a whole, of an algebraic existence, all right, of a whole people. So there was multiple tribes, but they didn't constitute the nation. It was the like a tribe is a microcosm of the macrocosm, which is nationality. That's not the nation. You know what I mean? Going back to that state of mind, you cannot circumscribe the most ancient people to just one area on the planet, because we were everywhere, and that's a fact. So again, I'm not knocking tribes, but I'm just saying don't ever get it confused that tribes supersede nations. It's not a fact. That's not a fact. So
you cleared that up. Because people come to get that confused. They think that tribes make the nation as if the nation doesn't exist. It's kind of it doesn't. They're hand in hand, but they're not independent in that respect. And a lot of people think that way, like, oh, I'm the so-and-so family, and I'm just going to, a tribe or family, and I'm going to make up a nation. No, you're already part of the one family, A lot of people, and one other thing you said, Miss, you said the BIA, and I know that most people know what that is, but there are some that do not. And the BIA is the Bureau of Indian Affairs, of which all federally recognized, quote unquote, Indians are authorized and regulated by. So therefore, that's showing you there that that's a coin. And we've said it many times. If you go into the executive order, only because of what's written in it, that was done by President Clinton at the time, he clearly makes that clear. He says Native Americans, which would be Moors, we would be Native, even though we're used to calling Native Americans and referring to Native Americans as Indians, and that's where we begin and end. But even one who knows the history, who was here, they know that Indian was a coin that was placed on them. And we're going to go over that in our next Sister Standing on Law class. But the BIA, the Bureau of Indian Affairs, clearly says Native Americans and federally recognized Indians, which is those who are under the BIA. Exactly, the Bureau of Indian Affairs. And that's what I tell people who say, oh, I'm an Indian. Then, if that's the case, you're under the BIA.
Right.
And whatever issue
still under their jurisdiction. And,
exactly.
Yeah. And one last thing where it says the name correction, proclamation, and things of that nature should only come into play when commerce is in question. That's definitely a fallacy for sure, or intentional misrepresentation. We have plenty of examples that that's not what it is. I'm gonna just leave it at this. Muhammad Ali, he didn't change his appellation for commercial purposes. He did that for spiritual reasons. And all the other great ancestors that they tell you about in history, you know, but they don't tell you, you know, that they actually changed their names. The Europeans rewrote them in history. You know what I mean? So just like again, we were speaking of Metacomet. All right, he was an Aboriginal Asiatic of North America. But who called him King Philip? It was the Europeans. They wrote him as King Philip in history. So, you know, that's a European personam jurisdiction move. You know, they might be trying to do commerce off of that, you know, but that's unconstitutional. That's unlawful. It's not, it has no validity. It has no morality at all. So I mean, this goes beyond, you know, commercial purposes. You know? So
yeah,
it's correcting your appellation is not just for, you know, some commercial benefit. Now, you know, like Noble Drali said, once you change your appellation, you do want to do all new business in your new appellation, you know, but the reason why you correct your appellation isn't just because of business, you know what I mean? It's because it's showing your connection, your allegiance to your nationality, you know, to your ancient foremothers and forefathers. Or you might have some other spiritual purposes, but it is an absolute right. You know, nobody can strip you of that absolute right. Though they tried to, you know, they showed you the example with Demetrix, with the Agent Smiths. You know, they kept calling Neo Mr. Anderson, but what did he keep doing? He kept saying, I am, you know, who I say I am. So, you know, it is what it is. And even on that note, those, you know, when they got down to business, just taking Muhammad Ali, for example, if you really didn't respect his, you know, status correction, you would get trashed in the ring. That was the business, you know what I mean? You saw what happened with Ernie Terrell. So I'm just saying, you know, you can't violate somebody's, you know, growth, you know what I mean, and change and, you know, metamorphosis in life of their mental, spiritual development or any other type of development, you know what I mean? So you got to respect people and the reasons why they do what they do. But, you know, something as mistaking the reason to change your name is because commerce is all that matters. That's a house built on sand. You know what I mean? So you know that's going to blow away. That's all.
And that just goes to show that they have well, it's deeper than that, but they actually believe that this commerce is government, that the corporations, are government. That's what it's showing, man. I mean, and they have no divine, as you said, there's no spiritual divine connection at all. It's just, I'm going to get mine today, so they think. All right. Well, anybody else have any comments on it? Because
you know, when what they're demonstrating when they make statements like that is gross lack of information. Because if you look at the history of this land, really, if people was to really look at the history, that was before the modern Europeans came here. This was never a land that dealt in commerce. We were merchants, meaning we were people who created beautiful works of art, and we exchanged them. But it wasn't about the exchanging. It was about the beauty of creating them, because that's what we are. We're artists. You know, that's our passion. We're going to create beautiful works of art. It just so happens that people like them, and we exchange them. This land, you know, what this person is talking about is what modern Europeans promote as capitalism. And they say this is a capitalistic society. No, it's not. It was never that. All right? Capitalism is what the modern Europeans have made it, but that is not what it was prior to the modern Europeans coming here. And if we look at, you know, it's crazy because
if you're saying, because basically what you're saying is your whole focus is in commerce. That's it. Then that means that not only are you selling yourself and other people, you're allowing other people to sell you, and you don't care that this is human trafficking as long as you get a piece of the pie. That is some twisted thinking, because that is not what we're here for. You know what you another thing that you're saying is you're totally devoid of your lesson here on planet Earth, this particular dimension, which has nothing to do with the accumulation of worthless pieces of paper. This is about spiritual growth. This isn't about what you can get. If your thinking is what you can get, then clearly you have not begun to learn your life lesson, because that's not what it's about. And that's all I got to say on that. Yeah. But I do want to move into something that I want to talk about, and it works, it goes in conjunction with this particular topic. And you know what? To me, it expresses why you don't want to get trapped in that commerce game, where you're trying to get a piece of whatever you think is the pie that somebody else is getting based on, the fact that you're living and breathing. I got a text from my sister, and she said, you got to watch this movie, Consumed. I didn't get a chance to watch it until, I think, yesterday. And as I'm watching this movie, it just, to me, and I put this up on Facebook with the trailer. You can catch the movie on Netflix. It's called Consumed. And when you watch it, it's talking about genetically modified food. That's the specific subject of the movie. But when you watch it, what you're watching is how every single corporation utilizes or monopolizes. They look at people as revenue generators.
Yes.
All right. This movie was specifically talking about the so-called food industry, and it was amazing to watch it because they laid it out beautifully. And many of you may have heard this. I like to watch a lot of documentaries. I don't really care for the foo-foo movies. I love documentaries because there's just such great information in this. There's a lot of documentaries that I've watched, like Food Matters, Set Up, Food Inc., Knife Over Fork. These are documentaries that's telling you what's going on in the food industry, and how they're really, tricking the people with these processed foods. And this movie is just another one, but it goes in just a little bit to me in explaining, tying a lot of things together, because in one of the documentaries that I saw, it showed you how, for example, Obama and Michelle Obama, Barack and Michelle Obama, they wanted to push, like, fresh foods and fresh foods in the schools and everything. They wanted to get away from, they wanted to get out of, they wanted to like totally get out all of this processed food. They didn't realize the massive industry that they were coming up against.
Yeah.
Right? And what they found out what happened was these corporations, corporate heads came in because they realized, okay, we got to figure out a way to get inside so that we can make change that's going to benefit our bottom line. So what they did was Michelle and Barack Obama, they established these committees that was going to investigate these processed foods, how it's impacting and affecting the people, and make a report, and then come up with ways to change it for the betterment of the people. Well, guess what the processed food corporations did? They said, we'd like to be on that committee too. In fact, we'll finance it. Brilliant move. And they're doing this all across the nation. And in this movie, they show you how the science, the so-called science today, is all smoke screens, because the processed food industry comes in, and they say, we'd like to be on the committee that's doing this research, and we're going to bankroll it. And what they do is they get people to sign up for this finance, this money, but they don't read the fine print because they're so happy to get all the funding their heart could possibly desire to complete their research, never realizing they're signing away the right to their research.
Right.
And in this movie, they show you how the research. This movie. It's not conjecture. This is literally happening right now. This is why some of us need to go into some of these legislative office buildings and just sit there and watch what is going on, what is being said, what is the attitude of these people. These people are literally, they're animals. They don't care about the people at all. For them, the people are like widgets. That's it. They're a widget. That's it. They don't have no blood, no flesh, nothing. And a lot of these so-called scientific research that's being done today, it's not even complete. All right? And the people that's funding it is funding it for their best interest, and they're putting all of this crap out into the marketplace, and the research to determine what impact it's going to have on human life is not being done. And in the movie, they even say that you're going to need at least 50 years to have the necessary research to show what type of effect it's going to have on the people. And in the movie, they said the research, the 50-year research that is needed is happening right now to the people who are consuming the products today. And they admitted that in the movie. And this movie is so not conjecture. I have been watching documentaries on food and the so-called science and the so-called FDA and so-called government that's supposed to be policing the corporations to ensure that the people are safe. That this movie points out, it just really breaks it down brilliantly. Now,
why should a corporation Why should a corporation? Why think about it? Why I want you to finish what you're saying, but I just want to interject. When we really think about it, why should a corporation care about people? Corporations only care about themselves and their bottom line. Corporations have no parity with the real flesh and blood people, and this is our point. We think that these people that are government are really corporations. They don't care about the people, and that's why that case law came out, because policemen are their security, and that case law says that policemen are not there to protect people; they're there to protect corporations. Now we know that the law doesn't supersede at all, But the problem we have is continually thinking that these people are government because they've cloaked us to think that. But back to the point, and then please continue on. Think about it. Why would corporations care about flesh and blood beings? They can't even issue or do anything to anyone but other corporations, which is why they look at people as corporate property, because the people keep kind of saying they are. That's what the whole point of declaring your standing, which is your relationship or status, is your relationship to the community. And then you would know the corporations cannot dictate jack to you.
Mm-hmm. That's correct. Now, I'm going to so strongly suggest everybody watch this movie, consume, and encourage anyone that you know to watch it, because it's showing you. This is. They're talking about genetically modified food. But they're telling you. I think last week we talked about. Why aren't we self-sustaining here? And I said, well, what they did was they destabilized this land in terms of the people being self-sufficient. We used to be able to grow our own food, and we were self-sustaining with what grew on this particular portion of the land. But they came in and they said no. They destroyed that ability, and they got us importing things that we used to grow here. The people who we're importing from, they're importing stuff that used to grow indigenously there from somewhere else. And they're doing that all around planet Earth. And this is destabilizing the planet. And it's crazy, but that's what they're doing. Well, in this movie, they show you, and of all people, Danny Glover has a huge acreage farm where he's growing organic food, and he gets shut down because a farmer across the way started growing genetically modified foods, and wind blew, and these corporations that supposedly made this seed, they come in the night checking the seed. If the seed made it over onto this organic farm, and yes, it did, so they were able to shut his farm down. As a result, he died. 30 generations of his family grew organic foods on this land, and that family inheritance just died because of these corporations. And then they show this guy coming in, and he's like, I feel you, but this is I'm just doing my job. If your food is no longer organic and it's been contaminated with genetic food, we can't certify you as organic. He doesn't care that it was all this is all orchestrated, fiasco.
Right, because he didn't buy or order those. They blew into his, or they mixed it up.
It's part of the destabilization.
Because they're saying, oh, well, sorry, but your product is really our product, so since you're selling it, we're going to sue you for selling it. So even if a person in that respect, if they wanted to continue farming, they got to pay them, and then they sue them, and they got to pay them, and then they basically take your stuff. And that's how the farmers go out of business.
Exactly. Now this movie opens up, and it opens up with this modern European daughter. She's a waitress. She gets called home because her son is developing this rash on his arms, and he can't move his arms. They don't know what is happening. And through her diligence, she finds out that it's the genetically modified food that they're pushing in the marketplace, and they know about it. They know the effects of this genetically modified food. Now, and I'm saying that this movie, it's a must watch for a few reasons. Number one, it's showing you that, look, if you don't start
doing something today to create some way for you and your family to eat outside of these genetically processed foods, we're in trouble. Number one, that's it. Number two, we're going to have to start learning to live off of less food, and to the point where we go back to what we used to be, which is getting our sustenance from the sun, because we never needed that crap to begin with, and this is just forced to make change in a real way. That's number two. Number three, this movie shows you how these corporations are operating as it relates to food, but they do it for everything. This is how they operate across the board. These people, they literally do not care about human life, only care about profit. That's it. They don't care about, if you come in, this woman in the movie, she has gone in there and she said, look, my child is suffering. They don't care. And then at one point in the movie, they showed the mother. The mother is diabetic. The daughter is telling the mother why she is diabetic, but the mother has been mentally conditioned to the point where she ODs on some sort of processed food and ends up in the hospital, and the daughter is asking, why did you do it? Why did you do it? And she says, because I can. I'm an adult. That is serious mental conditioning, and as I watched it, it made me remember people I know who have the same mental conditioning. You can tell them. They can have a conversation with you about it, but they will leave you and go and eat the very thing or consume the very thing that you just had a conversation about, and call you up, and there won't be a connect. There's no connect at all, even though they just had a lengthy conversation with you about it. So what this does is, I saw this and I put it up on Facebook with the following caption, and that is, I actually want to read exactly what I put up on Facebook because this is so deep. I put everyone must watch this movie and pass it on for as many people as possible to see. This movie is not conjecture. It is happening right now and has been happening for years. These corporations, for profit and a steady source of revenue, income, are intentionally infecting the people through genetically modified products. This movie shows and blatantly demonstrates that if people, all people, this is not specific to just Moors or modern Europeans, this is everybody's challenge. This is everybody's concern. If all people continue to turn a blind eye, these corporations, along with the questionable government agencies, will continue to literally kill people for profit. This movie shows how so-called hospitals, insurance companies, corporations, questionable government agencies all collude for profit and a steady generation of income at the expense of the people. Enforce the supreme law of the land, the American Constitution, 1791, or you will be murdered by this revenue-generating process. Now, I said that because this is a revenue-generating process that is not just specific to genetically modified food, processed foods, or the food industry on a whole. Now, the other quote that I put up there, because it was just, as the movie is going off, it had these news blurbs. One of the news blurbs was the World Health Organization recently concluded that glyphosate, the herbicide used in tandem with almost all GE crops, is probably carcinogenic to humans. They just told you they're murdering the people. They're flat out murdering the people for profit, right? Now, and then I had to put this in there. The American Constitution, 1791, was written to protect all people from infringement of their liberties by corporations. What does that mean? It means no corporation is supposed to use the people as a means of generating income, including the so-called government. If the government does not protect the people, they are reclassified by their action as a mere private corporation. Is that conjecture? No. Let me give you the case law on that. Under the Clearfield Doctrine, derived from the 1943 Supreme Court decision in Clearfield Trust et al. Versus the United States, 328 U.S.363-318, the court ruled, pay attention, in essence, that when a government reduces itself to a corporate status, it becomes merely another corporation, having no more, no less standing than all other corporations. All right? What does that mean? It means that, look, a corporation is a legal fiction. It doesn't exist. Yes, it exists materially, but it is shrouded in a blanket of deceit called a corporate veil. The United States is a corporation for remuneration, for profit, and so are all the states, federal and otherwise, and all of their counties, parishes, cities, towns, townships, boroughs, and other subdivisions. So that's your case law right here. So now what are all of these so-called government agencies doing? They're doing business deals. If they're doing business deals, then they're no longer government. They're private corporations, and they need to be handled as such. And then lastly, how do you know who they're supposed to be dealing with and who they're supposed to be leaving alone in terms of commerce, since we want to talk about commerce, right? In the American Constitution, there is a footnote on page 13, footnote, I think it's C. Hold on, I'm waiting for it to come up. I want to read this footnote because this puts to bed all of this, I got to get this birth certificate, and, because they're using it to generate revenue off of me and all this other stuff. It puts all of that to bed. Here it is. In the American Constitution, let's see, on page 13, this is out of the United States Congressional Record, page 13, let's see, footnote D, last paragraph. It reads, persons are not the subjects of commerce, and not being imported goods, they do not fall within the meaning founded upon the Constitution of a power given to Congress to regulate commerce and the prohibition of the states for imposing a duty on imported goods. That just told you that people are not supposed to be used in any commercial or commerce fashion whatsoever. And if they are being used in that capacity, that's treason. Now, the only reason this is going on, people are suffering in every manner conceivable. They're suffering because we will not wake up and enforce the Constitution. We got stupid idiots talking about commerce, and I'm going to get mine, and I'm going to go get a birth certificate, and I'm going to try and capture the money that's in the Social Security card, when that's all you have to do is enforce the Constitution and live free like we're supposed to be living on this continent, because that's what it always was. The Pope comes over here, and he says this is the land of the free, home of the brave. And we got punk people talking about, I want to cut a deal instead of being the brave that you're supposed to be so we can all live free. Everybody needs to step up to the plate and be brave so that we can all live free. This is not debatable. It's not subject to compromise. You either enforce the Constitution or the universe will take you out, because the Constitution was written based on universal law, and universal law rules whether you like it or not, whether you want to believe it or not. So choose today which way you want to go. I'm sticking with the American Constitution because I know what it's based on and I know where it comes from. And yes, I am honoring my foremothers and my forefathers by enforcing what they left for my protection. Islam?
Islam. Indeed. Real quick, before we continue to go in, I know Cujo is going to add on, but I want to paint a picture and ask you all what you think, right? Because you was just saying some powerful things, you know, and just correlating it all with the concept of the movie you were talking about, as far as the land, you know, planting on the land, different types of genetically modified seeds and things like that. You still have to deal with the element of universal law to even do that, number one. And it's correlative to the land because in the Constitution, because you're talking the law of the land. So when you was mentioning his family had acreage, that was in his family 30 generations, right? When you're talking about the patches of land or the land period, it's a law that goes with it, which is the Constitution. What I realized, I didn't get to watch the whole thing, but it didn't take me too long into just viewing what I could. That go and this correlates again with the destabilization that you were speaking of, as far as importing, exporting, you know, laws that go with that, international laws that go with that, right? Pardon me, I'm good, right?
Yes.
What I wanted to say is, with that mental destabilization, and this might be a problem of our people since we're talking on the commerce, right? You know, they were sustaining themselves off of the land, right? Because there's value in that. That's an art. You were talking about how, you know, we are artists. We tend to beautiful products of art and manifest that. So when you're talking about planting seeds in the earth and tending to them, making sure they grow right, that's work. That's value. It's a value in that because it's straight from nature. Now, we know we've been under mental warfare. I want to know what you all think of this specifically. Is, do you think it was a part of the mental warfare or the disconnection of Aboriginal people to the land that we're talking about, governed by universal law, Constitution? Do you think that the disconnect from the land, one starting with detaching from the word American, right? Because we're talking Al-Moroccan or American land. So, okay, they detach you from a connection with that or even dealing with that. But then also the story of y'all were slaves picking cotton in the field. People automatically associate, you know, land work or earth work or, you know, farmer work with slavery. So they don't want no parts of it. Do you think that was a part of, and maybe I'll just answer my own question, but I still would like to know what you think as far as them trying to paint the story of Moors working on the land as being a part of slavery. Therefore, people disconnect, specifically Moors, Al-Moroccans, Americans. They don't want to have anything to do with it. But yet, that's an industry. That's an industry because not too far, you know, they have land outside of any city, really, a so-called, you know, civilized area with, you know, brick and mortar, concrete, heavy, all of that. You know, not too far from any one of those, you have farmlands, you know. and it's an industry. You got Ocean Spray, you know, you got Cran Grape. Like these are, they're just making finance off of cranberry juice, but they're working the land to get the cranberries or the water, etc. So it's like at the same time, you worried about commerce, but there's a lot of value and wealth with working the land.
Yeah, I like to say too that not only did they, when they said picking cotton on the land, I mean, this is supposed to be the amber waves of grain, right, in the song, right? But at the same time, they did a double on that. They made you not, or it was a suggestion anyway, not to not like farming and also to not like your hair. Now, some people say, well, wow, what's that got to do with things? Because they hit you on the spiritual side, because your hair is truly, it's kind of likened to cotton in a way, you know, our natural hair, unkept or whatever like that. And it's also our antenna to our spiritual communications, to our spiritual communications, because the hair is the antenna. You know, it's made out of silicone. I have that all in the Truth About Your Hair book, but that's why the science of dealing with hair is called cosmetology, because it's cosmos to me. And so they did a double on that. And I also just wanted to say that I wanted to interject earlier that statute at law that about taxes, a person's not being the subject of taxes or not is not what's meant that can be taxed at all, is on our About Taxes page, by the way. I just wanted to say if people wanted to find what Annie was reading, that they can go right to the About Taxes pages, and it's right on there, and it says exactly what she said. It says persons are not. So you have to identify what kind of person, because they're talking about corporations, persons, as we know. But it's not meant for natural people on the tax thing. But that being said, back to the land and back to not wanting us to have any connection with it, you're right. And it also included not wanting any connection to what is really our spiritual antenna, which is our hair. And that just kind of, I think, really destroyed our ability to even get involved in any spiritual divine information. That's why some people, you know, they even say, well, what does divine have to do with it? You know, because they didn't study to really realize what it does have to do with it. But yeah, that's all I wanted to add.
Yeah, because they're associated with quote-unquote slavery or servitude in the field. Meanwhile, today, present day, they're making an incountable amount of finance off of the land. Like it's a industry. You can't even really calculate how much finance they're generating. You know what I mean? So I just find that perplexing in that aspect, because they're promoting it as that, but in the meanwhile, they got their hand over here, reaping in all the benefits. Yeah, you don't want anything to do with the land. You know, it's all good. Go be in the concrete jungle. And it's people that are like, yo, I don't want to be on the land. Like, I want to be in the concrete jungle forever. This is where it's happening at. And it's like, damn, if you only knew the state of mind of your foremothers and forefathers, you know, that you know, the land is really where it's at. But, you know, likewise, I just want to mention that Islam.
Islam.
Shit, what's good, bro?
Yo, I'm here, yo. Taking in the build, yo. Y'all been going in tonight. Going in as usual. But as far as the disconnect, another part of it that has to be considered as well is that while they take us out of having the mindset to connect to the land, they have us tilling the artificial fields. They have us away from, so, you know, like when we look at them disconnecting us from the land by having us pick cotton, make us hate our hair, make us whatever. At the same time, they were tilling the field in order to create hemp to write the Constitution on.
Word.
Yeah.
They were cultivating hemp to make parachutes.
Yeah.
They were cultivating hemp to make sails for ships or whatever. At the same time as them claiming, us being disconnected from it, and then us going into the concept of what we were talking about earlier with Moors engaging in commerce, not realizing that they're tilling the artificial field when they go there.
Mm-hmm.
When they go down that lane of commercial, quote-unquote, activity, that's no different than an ocean spray drink.
Mm-hmm.
But the concept is so warped, like Ms. is saying, that they're looking to seek fruits of labor from artificial fields that do not produce anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Word.
Let's not throw that in there. I yield the floor.
Well, I'd also like to say that, when you think about it,
Before you get into that, wasn't there something that said that they was going to make people look towards an artificial womb?
Yeah.
Wasn't there something?
King Alfred.
King Alfred plan, yeah.
And you know what else?
Hold on, y'all sure that wasn't the Willie Lynch? Well, King Alfred is Willie Lynch Part 2. Let's leave it like that. Cool.
Well, yeah, but you know what? In the King Alfred, something else you said earlier brought to mind that when you said that, our people just, they won't study and they won't get this thing right. It says in the King Alfred that, yes, that it is about creating an artificial womb. And it also says those who will not use their intelligence are like stakes on the table. And that's what the people have been like. Just
hold on. Stakes on the table by choice and consent.
By choice and consent. There you go. That's powerful. By choice and consent. And that's the way people are looked at that will not use their own intelligence. And it's in the King Alfred also. Yeah.
Because that's the way they're behaving.
That's the way we're behaving. Exactly. And another thing is, think about it. If you have people who are genetically modified or born themselves in laboratories, which, we have to do the real roots of them, think about it. They might be lacking their fictions. I mean, they don't have, I said it earlier, they don't really understand the natural existence of nature's law, God's law, any of that. They want to try to be that. But mainly, they want to they're usurping the position, take you away from the land while, as Cujo said and Ms. said, and we've all said, while they use it, just like they use law when it's in their favor, but they know you don't know it, so they can tell you anything, and you're not going to question it because you don't know. You're not going to enforce law because you don't realize that you are the law manifest. None of that is going to go down. So it's all artificial. They created an artificial womb. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
It's right in the King Alfred.
Powerful.
Mm-hmm. There you have it.
Powerful.
Yeah.
And they're telling you in so many different ways, because even in this movie, I mean, I can't, it's like a lot of, it's the message is specific, but you can take that same message and overlay it in other areas. For example, you got this whole right to travel issue. They're doing the same thing. It's the same thing. If you're trying to just have some place to live, they do the same thing. And we, as a people, we really need to wake up. We need to wake up. We need to come together, and we need to work as one, because they're counting. The only way that this program that they have implemented can continue to work is if we do not unite. If we unite and start working as a team, this thing is over.
It's more than unite. It's to have knowledge. It's to have knowledge.
Well, yeah. Well, you can't unite if you don't have knowledge.
That's why we're not uniting, because nobody is really studying. They've got that mentality of somebody do it for me type thing.
Yes, that is correct. That is correct. And we need to recognize. We really do need to recognize that also is a mental enslavement. It's a mental enslavement that has been. We've been mentally conditioned to function under, because if we can't, they have conditioned us to not think for ourselves.
Yes.
Really, they have, and they count on us continuing in that manner. And so one of the ways that you can know, and it's not to make people feel bad when we say these things, it's just for you to see it. All right? Because until you see it, you're never going to be able to correct it. So you have to look at yourself and know that, look, if you're complaining because there's nobody to sit next to you and talk to you about this information, you don't have anybody to talk to, or you don't have anybody to, you need somebody to write a writ, or you need somebody to come and speak on your behalf, all of that is mental conditioning, because you're supposed to be able to do all of those things for yourself. And the reason you're not able to is because you've been mentally conditioned not only to not be able to do it, but to not want to do it for yourself. So when you come into this information is saying, hey, we're going to give you everything so that you can take care of your own affairs, know your own business, make your own decisions, everything from A to Z. That's what this information is doing. And a lot of times people come crying, kicking, and screaming to this place because they don't realize that they've been mentally conditioned to not want to do it. And so you have to first recognize that the reason we all suffer under it. All this week I know I have to do something, but at the same time I really don't want to do it. And so this is not about anything outside of you. This is about inside of you. You're going to have to overcome yourself. You're going to have to overcome yourself. Nobody can overcome you for you. You're going to have to overcome yourself.
You're talking point of a sword right there. You're talking point of the sword. And also, think about this for a second. It just kind of hit me when we're talking about working the land. We have been, all of us, the generations, indoctrinated to work, to get a job. To work is to get a job. But really, to work the land is true work. And if you put in, you get out. You take care of the earth will take care of you. They know that. Mm-hmm. So they bounced us off to, no, you have to, they're only indoctrinating you to be a good corporate employee for whatever corporation or business someone else may run, not to really work, because that's giving your energy to them. But it's not real work. That's why most people aren't really satisfied at their jobs. Because they're not really working. But the deal is to work. Like when my family, I remember my father telling me, and he goes back to times when, he would refer in his lack to his people as Indians. And I would say, Dad, if they're Indian, well, peace and blessings be upon him. He's passed now. But if you're calling them Indians, then they're not black, Dad. That's you're talking about your grandmother, your grandmother. But still, he wouldn't get it, and many of our family won't get it because we've been indoctrinated otherwise. But what he was saying is that they grew their own food. They built their own home. Yep. They didn't need to go to a job 9 to 5 to somebody. Right. For what? He said when McDonald's, he used this as an analogy. When McDonald's came in, people, as an example, and people go there, to buy food, which, by the way, is junk food or GMOs or whatever, all of these fast food places.
And they used to get the lettuce and tomatoes from the Aboriginals. Keep that in mind.
Yes. But no one needed to work in the land anymore.
My fault. I don't want to cut you, but look at the way. Now I know they're dealing with a lot of genetically modified stuff, but think about it. How many stores they sell sandwiches, right? The sandwiches are flesh, but they gotta get the lettuce and tomatoes from somebody. And where's that coming from? Straight from the land. Who's putting in that work to manifest those? I'm just saying that's the work, the background, and they make billions off of tomatoes and lettuce alone. So my fault. Just to put that in perspective, our ancestors were suppliers at the same time as growers. That's all I wanted to really be really clear, Islam.
Right, but they change work into getting a job, and that's not really necessarily the work. So all of what we're sharing tonight is really all kind of tied together. While they take the land, they've infected it. What's the word I'm looking for? Contaminated it, tried to be God and make seeds, then make a genetically modified seed, and then talk about, it blew over on your yard. If that grows, I'm going to sue you for selling it. It's craziness. It's just absolute madness. So.
No doubt. Absolutely. So I guess before we move on, since we was talking about the food and health and things of that nature, I just wanted just to add this on because as it relates to the movie, it had a lot to do with health and injury. And just a quick flashback as all of this really ties in. A couple of weeks ago when we was on the MHHS-Eyes show, somebody called in and asked about, suing, because of something happened with their mother. Just want to put this out there, tying in law, health, malpractice, and things of that nature. A couple of quick references from John Bouvier's Institutes of American Law, number 2236, page 6. It says, those injuries to health which arise upon a contract or misconduct of medical men when through neglect, ignorance, or wanton experiments, they injure patients. There are three kinds of malpractice for which an action will lie, and sometimes an indictment can also be sustained. These are 1, willful malpractice, which takes place when the physician willfully administers medicines or performs an operation unlawfully, which he knows and expects will result in danger or death to the individual under his care, as in the case of criminal abortions. That's criminal abortions. I'm not getting into that subject. I'm just saying they didn't say civil. They said criminal abortions. People beating the child out of the womb, all that crazy stuff. All right. Number 2, negligent malpractice, which comprehends those cases where there is no criminal or dishonest object, but gross negligence of that attention which the patient requires, as if a physician should administer injuries, medicines, while in a state of intoxication. Number 3, ignorant malpractice, which is the administration of medicines calculated to do injury, which do harm, and which well-educated and scientific medical men will know were not proper in the case. Will know were not proper in the case. And again, that's from the Institutes of American Law, and I'm going to end on this. Chapter 14, number 24 of the Circle 7 tells you, the lawyers, doctors, and scribes are useless cumberers of the ground. They are but tumors on the body of the state. All right? This is an excerpt. So, real facts. And when we get back to healing ourselves, which goes back to dealing with the land, as you was mentioning, sowing the seeds, getting the natural products, or things of that nature without the genetically modified aspects and, you know, those different aspects of malpractice and, you know, the doctors are dealing with pharmacopoeia and injuring people, things of that nature. You know, I trust that reference will be useful. And again, to take care of yourself, check out the health page, RVBey Publications, Aboriginal Health. Salute to Anna E. Raz, and on that note, peace and love.
Thank you. Yeah, it's called that page is Be Aboriginally Healthy. Mhm.
Yeah, my fault. Pardon me. Be Aboriginal Healthy. I said Aboriginal Health. My fault.
Yeah, it's okay. Mm-hmm. It's what's called Be Aboriginally Healthy.
Yeah. And we talking certain aspects of health, healing. You know, when you're talking about products that come from the land, I just also wanted to add on that the word salam means health or peace. So, peace and love, salam.
Yeah. I just want to add on too. I did what they call a crystal bath. Man, it was just yesterday, and so I really shouldn't make any comment. I know I feel a lot better because you just line up the crystals with all your 7 chakras, and you lay there, and you know it cleanses the chakras, and it's really a good feeling. It really is. Really, I feel a lot better.
Yeah, that's that aspect of white in its true essence, or candor, you know, meaning purity. You cleanse, you purified. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, you know, this is the difference in the levels of what Noble Drawley was saying about white meaning purity. Purity meaning God meaning ruler of the land, right? Because all of this, you know what I mean? Like, it shows in aspects that we are that when we talk about God meaning ruler of the land. I know we're not a superior force than the all, but you know, it's correlative because when you talk about tending the land for those purposes, you know, you are guiding. That's action. That's taking initiative and action. Those are God-like actions to tend to creation or something that's manifesting or something that's unfolding into existence. To take care of something like that, you know, is God-like, you know. But again, that goes back to the land and being connected to it. And it's the last thing I want to say. Pardon me. I don't mean to seem. I don't want to be everywhere, but we was mentioning briefly about, you know, people who don't want to do it themselves, and I'm not bashing on anybody. But Cujo sent me a text. Somebody got beat out of this was like yesterday. I didn't get to respond, but it hit me in the chest. You know, somebody got beat for a couple of 100 notes. You know, for something I don't know, and I'm thinking like, listen, you know, if you're gonna, you can't really look to somebody else to do that. Not that the notes really matter, don't get me wrong, but if you're going to spend that much amount of notes, you might as well go ahead, get your books, you know what I mean, get your Iron Sheik music and look at everything that's there already for no charge. You got your YouTube videos, Canaan Landmore's page. Cujo is holding that down. You got your literature, RVBey publication. You got your research on different lawful aspects and positions to take, as well, Moorish Nation Public Records. And then we got the audio archive here, too. So if you're going to spend that fiat, you might as well get you something you can sit down with, teach yourself, or take your mate or your friend or somebody out and have a good time and save your finance. I mean, I'm just saying there's a lot of other ways to blow it. You know what I mean? So when we take that self-initiative, not to, you know, say, hey, I'm in the time of need where I need help, but again, going back to looking within, and when you start guiding your situations, you know, you can do that in many different ways, you know. And I'm not just saying, hey, don't spend your fiat with them. Spend it with us. I'm just saying there's a lot more better things you can obtain in life with that. You know what I mean? Or whatever. So I don't know. I say that not specifically to that being, but to everybody who's like, yo, I'll pay you to do this. Like, yo, keep your finance and look at what's already there. Take your time and study. You know what I mean? I know it feels like it's a lot of pressing needs in the hour, but you got to invest in yourself, the time. You know what I mean? And if you don't want to do that, I don't know what to tell anybody. You know what I mean? To you know, digest the information and take your position. There's just too much information out, you know. So I know it's almost overwhelming to be like, damn, do I got to watch all of these? Like, or read? Yeah, yes, you have to read all of that. You take your time to watch all of it. It might be impossible, you know what I mean? But it is what it is. So, you know, I'm just saying that don't let nobody tell you that, you know, nationality costs, you know, damn near 1,000 notes for you to make a move. Like, nah, that's not true. That's not true. It's definitely not. You know, now the knowledge that we do share and have, you know, that may come from investing time and energy in studying ourselves and studying literature, which we're able to give reference points off of that. But, you know, we couldn't pay for that except for what the material cost to even obtain it. Back to what Anna E was saying earlier. She said that, you know, they pay for research teams, meaning that the researcher has value. The research has value, you know what I mean, to take the time to do that. So it's a valuable move to take your time to study. And I'm not just talking about because you'll get a return from it. You know, it's how you you know, put it out there. You know, your return might be it might be spiritual, you know, or gifts from the Creator that, you know, man can't even take away from you. You know, you might find out something about yourself you didn't know, which allows you to get into another zone. I don't know, you know what I mean? But I know that, you know, study is the remedy. Like, that's it. So I would get, you know, before I spend 1,000 notes on that, not to say that service is not valuable. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying I'd much rather acquire some new or old literature that I didn't have. You know, they're selling some books for 700, 800 notes. You know what I mean? Get one of those, couple of those. Or, you know what I mean, however it got to go. But I'm just saying, with that, I don't want to ramble on. I just want to say the best investment is in yourself with the knowledge. Digest it. You have to do that just like you have to eat your food, just like you have to take your shower, just like you have to exercise. If you want to bulk up, no matter how many weights I lift, I cannot bulk you up because I'm lifting that weight. So it's only going to affect my body, not yours. So if you want to bulk up, you got to carry some weight. That's just the bottom line, or get out the gym. And that's just it. So that's my position. Islam.
Islam.
Islam. And with regards to that situation, too, the irony of them being able to tell somebody 600 is that they were taught through RVBey and all that for free.
Wow.
And they didn't even put the people who they played for the 600 onto the site.
Oh.
And that individual specifically went to those people in search of Moors, and those individuals didn't even tell the person that they jacked for 600 that there was a Moorish barbecue that they could have went to and came and ate for free.
Crazy, yo.
And take home Tupperwares of food and all that. And the individual was more mad at that than the 600.
Right.
Word. It's just the principle Why wasn't that being invited? What's up with that? Like,
right.
Man, that's the crazy stuff that be going on. That's the type of shit, excuse my expression, that's the type of stuff where I be like, yo, I don't see the unity. You know what I mean? Like, I don't see it. Now, I can't pin that on everybody, you know, but it might just be that particular, you know, being. But it's things like that, you know what I mean? Yeah. Not that, you know, 1,000 of us took a picture, here's the proof we're unified. I'm talking about, yo, why you didn't invite me to the barbecue? Like the being you're saying. What happened to that? You know what I mean?
That way. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and another thing too, when we're talking about relative to the land and the work really comes from the land. Don't forget things like crystals are metaphysical fruits and vegetables.
Yeah.
Because those come from the land too. Those come from the land. You can't eat them, but you get energy from them.
Wow, interesting.
That.
Wow, because I thought about it like I know myself and I know many others like to wear natural jewelry like silver, copper, crystals, have them wrapped. And, you know, like some of the rest of the world, I think they're like, you know, glamorous this or going along with whatever. You know, they're like looking for you to have, you know, we wear stuff that, you know, you got to wrap if you want to wear it, or you can put crystals in your pocket or whatever like that, or otherwise you wrap them or somehow, you know, have them so they can hang on you. And, you know, some other people, they kind of look like, why are you doing that? But they don't understand what those jewels really are. And the other thing that some of the magnificent, magnanimous jewels that are worn or adorned on a crown or, you know, some sort of headdress. I think, Ms., you had told me before you had looked up some of that, and it said that the jewels were worn to bane off or to ward off, was it the baneful eye or the jealous eye of other people? In other words,
yeah, no, you remember precisely. That's history of the Moorish Empire in Europe language. You know what I mean? I would go buy all 3 volumes of that before I spent, you know, $600 on something like that. You know what I mean? Real talk, just facts. You know what I mean? I'll get 2 Henry Campbell Black's Law Dictionaries and give one to somebody just 'cause. You know what I mean? I know that you can't pay for your salvation. You know what I mean? Like, it's certain things, yes, finance is needed to uplift the nation, and it is very helpful in these days and times, you know, but the way you utilize it, you know, can make the difference. And the way, you know, so like we were saying, you know, should I rather spend a couple hundred notes on the book and a couple hundred notes for the crystal bath or something like that? Or, you know what I mean? Some whatever, you know what I mean? Just it's so many more uplifting things you can do.
It didn't even cost that much for the crystal bath down here. It was like, it really wasn't that much. It was like $45. That wasn't nothing, man.
So $45 for one of those hundreds. You got a 45 note, or let's just say for a whole 100, you could take you and your mate to go get a crystal bath. That's 100 right there. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. All right. Then with another 100, you can go out to eat. If you eat what's in those restaurants, or, you know, go get your vegan meals, that's not even going to cost you 100. You got a movie, you know what I mean? Whatever it's so much, and I know, you know, some people is like, why you got to spend $1,000 on meat? Like, nah, we're not talking that. You know, everybody doesn't have it like that. You know what I mean? I'm just saying, there's little things you can do to bring joy, to bring peace, to bring harmony, happiness in your direct environment and those around you, to raise the vibration, you know, opposed to getting beat. You know what I mean? Because there's nothing If you don't know it, you know what I mean? And the source where they got it from is giving it to you for free intentionally, like intentionally giving it to you for free, you know, and then somebody gets it from there because it was intentionally given to all for free, you know, and then says, I'm going to sell this back to you, you know what I mean? Like from that source, like, no, show me the lessons where you expanded on what was given to you for free. Where's that at? You know what I mean? Or something like that. Where's your literature at, as a matter of fact? You have a book, anything, where's that at? You know what I mean? I'll buy that. You know what I mean? And then I'll holler. I don't know. But it's just so many different ways. I'm not trying to tell anybody how to spend their finance or the finance they get or anything like that. That's not what I'm doing. I'm just saying that instead of getting beat for 600 or 7 or 8 or 1,000 or 2,000, however much it is. Now, granted, if you really need that service and that person or that being is willing to contract with you, then that is between y'all. Nobody can, you know, you want that service. This is what they saying they want for their time. Got to respect that if you feel as though it's worth.
But it's not fair, though. But it's become a situation of a usual practice, it seems, that once that happens, then what about those people who complain and say, yeah, I'm not messing with those Moors. They charged me $1,000 and you know, it didn't even happen or whatever like that. You know, it's not fair to do that because they should have studied and maybe, and then we're not saying that there's nothing wrong with, you know, having assistance in building with other people or whatever like that, but that's what they do. And then and they, yeah, like somebody owed them something. No, the person who they gave the finance to, they expected to owe them something, I guess. But why put that on all Moors? Like, oh yeah, I went to the Moors and, you know, I got ripped out. That's like, think about it. It don't even sound right.
Right. So yeah, don't get it wrong. You know, if somebody, you know, there's different processes, but over here nobody's scraping you for multiple hundreds of notes. Like nobody's doing that. You cannot. That's not true. None of us on this line, I know for a fact, is scraping people for, you know, oh well, if you need help, I'm gonna charge you $600. Like, nah, you know what I mean? Because really, we at the point, you know, where it's like you can't pay us to help you at this point. Like, well, everything that's going on, it's just can't. You gotta put in the work. Like I said, if you're trying to bulk up, you gotta hold some weight or get out the gym. That's it. It's nothing in between. You're not gonna bulk up. If Cujo is pumping weights and bulking up, with the weights that he's holding and pumping, I might be inspired, but no matter how much I'm inspired, I'm not going to bulk up because I'm holding no weight. It's just not going to go down. So, again, you know, and this is not to, you know, be you know, insensitive or anything like that, but, you know, it is what it is. You got to put in the work, and that's just the only way you're going to get results. The only way you're going to get results is putting in work. That's it. So, you know, and I don't mean just punching the clock.
All right.
Type of work.
All right, Islam. Well, it is about 10 minutes left to the live internet feed. It is going to go down at 11:30, and we'll continue for another hour. So if you're able to call in, and if there is a line free, you can call 347-945-5899. If you're not able to get in, then wait until after 12:30 and download the archive, and you can listen to the remaining hour. So with that, what we're going to do is we're going to take callers. If you have a question, comment, or a concern that you'd like to share, please press 1 on your telephone. and we'll take the callers in the order that they arrive. So the first caller we have is 317-681. You're live on the air. Please state your appellation at Northwestern Exum.
Peace. This is Golden Bay. I have a question. I'm coming out of a mental or intellectual coma. I've been studying for about a year, actually, now.
Pardon me, brother.
Very
you said coming out of the what?
I must say an intellectual coma.
Okay. Gotcha.
I say that because I was walking dead, but yet I was seeing the light.
All right.
So that's my status from the past. My status now is that I'm coming into true information. First, I want to say this. I appreciate what your brothers and sisters are doing because, the people need it. We waking up. Slowly but surely, we waking up. I see that for myself. I'm a witness. But my question is pertaining to nationality. If filing my proclamation and declaration or my writ, what are some of the places that I need to send these notices out to?
Did you send it in to get it sealed with witnesses already?
Yes, I did. My question is about that because it's a lot of processes going on out here, and I've been listening. Actually, I've been trying some of these processes, but it wasn't based on the nationalities, based on other things. In regards to, basically, some of it's been in regards to commerce, and I've been drawing my own conclusions.
Yeah. You're gonna go get corporate. I mean, that we talked about that. It's like it's not about commerce. When you're making your declaration, a proclamation, declaring meaning that you're clear. Once you're clear, then you proclaim, which is absolutely means publishing, and which is what we offer on the site, is the document that you would publish, name, correction, and judicial notice. And in that judicial notice is your stance. It covers everything as far as your stance. And then you make lawful notice to the 7 locations or 8 that we send to you, because those are Department of States for the most part, and not necessarily, corporate, localities. Because what you're doing is you're making lawful notice, and when you're making lawful notice, you're not about them responding back. A lawful notice is to put someone on notice. It's not to expect something back. That's all. Right. That after that, if you really want to know what to do after that, is just start being who it is you say you are. And if you have inner and understanding of the proclamation that you just made, signed, sealed, etc., then and do your studies, because you can only be what you know, which is where the studies come in. Now, a lot of people say, well, look, I don't think anybody should have, a card or a travel card until they know. Well, all information is out there for them to know, to study. And so on one hand, it's like they got to study. But like you said, coming out of that intellectual coma, as you call it, I kind of like that. That's kind of cool, because remember, they were making a artificial womb that affected your intellectual abilities, and as long as we stayed under the artificial womb, then we're not using our intelligence, and we become stakes on the table for everybody's taking. That's what has happened. So
exactly.
So catching up means we have to put skates on. Yeah. Now, other processes, birth certificate redemption, yeah, we got it, it's commerce. No, it's not. It's about you doing that first, and then you can enter into anything that you want to. There is an article on the open readings page of RVBey Publications that was written by Taj. It's called How to Live Within Contracts. You learn how to do that from there as well. That's very important.
Exactly. And that's what I was looking to hear, if it would have been mentioned about the 7 locations. So that gave me some confirmation. Most of the information that I've been getting, the information I've been getting is through email. So to hear a live voice speak, it gives me a little bit more confidence, but real true confidence come from the studying and the facts that you learn and you learn to stand on. Now, y'all said a lot of things on here that I love hearing. Me and some of the brothers here, we understand the difference between commerce and trade. And I ain't too much in an agreement after studying so long about this commerce. I believe that real and natural people, we can do trade. You know, like one of the brothers was mentioning on this talk.
We're the original merchants.
Exactly. And that's what we should get into is raising our own vegetation and trading with our neighbor if the neighbor is raising vegetation as well. So I agree.
We did a class. We did a class on Sisters Standing on Law, and we really I just don't know which one that is. I gotta look back, and we covered. There was a fine distinction, and maybe you can help me with that on the difference between commerce and merchant and being merchant. The real deal is to be merchants and to trade is we dealt with the natural resources of the earth, because that's what belongs to us in terms of our ancestral estate and the land and the resources of the land. What they've done in commerce is take the natural stuff, so apropos for this class, modified it. It's not really natural anymore. And they're third party in it, if you will, and using it as commerce.
Exactly.
There is a difference. You're right. You're on point.
Merchants, they what they're doing is, it used to be that a merchant had goods that they acquired that were made. Usually they made them, right? That's how because when you're a merchant, you can vouch for your products because you made them. What people are doing today is they're going and buying something that was made in bulk, and they're buying like 100 of these things, and then they're tacking on some additional cost. And then they're going and selling it. That's not a merchant. That's commerce.
Exactly. And I just want to clear up, because I don't know how often I'll be able to get on this call, but to hear the dialogue coming from the voice of other Moors, it's very helpful. So I want to ask this question. Some of the process that I started last year, early this year, is one, dealing with the birth certificate. And I believe that I may have been misled.
Yep.
I'm not really sure yet.
Yep.
But I've done authentication of the birth certificate, which later I started to question that, and then doing the DBA to separate myself from this fictitious entity that they assume that we are. Or actually, they don't even assume it. They're trying to trick us that we are some corporate fiction. However, is it necessary that I have an authenticated birth certificate? Is it necessary that I do a DBA as the fictitious entity using that corporate fiction name or my slave name?
Do you know what DBA means?
It's doing business as...
What is the key word in that sentence? What is the key word in that sentence? Doing business as.
Right.
There will no business in your free national appellation.
All right? And the thing is, you're trying to live. Living is not business. It's supposed to be free and clear.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
So you're not doing business as, you're not also known as. There's enough things that apply to people who are just supposed to be living free. You're supposed to be able to live free. But see, what they try to do is they try to make you think that they try to get you tangled up in corporate activity. And see, and that's also the trap, because a lot of people, they run and they go create LLCs. And what does LLC mean? Limited liability corporation. Well, what's the key word in that sentence? Corporation. So now that you have created a corporation, now you are under the jurisdiction of statute.
Yeah. Period.
And then people, what people do is like you know, and they're like, well, what? I want to be a part of the temple. Well, then they say, well, the prophet incorporated the temple. No, he didn't, because why did the prophet incorporate a temple when he knows that if you're incorporated, that puts you under the jurisdiction of statute?
That's right.
That's right. Okay. That's a trap. Those two things don't go together. And then the birth certificate thing. And I said this, I think about 2-3 weeks ago, and I'm hoping that people are going to be ready next Tuesday, because I asked everybody to do the research on the county, city, town, township, borough that they are near. Do the research on it, and then come back and tell us what you found. Because if you do the research on that county that you're near, or the county that this birth certificate is out of, you're going to find that these are foreign corporations. So now, what are you doing with a document from a foreign corporation on American soil, certifying that it's an authentic document when actually they put their corporate seal on it anyway? I don't know any birth certificate that doesn't have the corporate raised seal on it. So you already got that. Yep. What does that document mean? It means human trafficking, because if you're Aboriginal Indigenous, and this is a foreign corporation on American soil, why are they registering a human being like they are a fixture? And lastly, everybody is running and going and getting a certified copy of the certificate of birth, or birth certificate, or live birth certificate. If it's using the word certificate, it's saying that there is a title or an original document somewhere, but this is not it.
That's what it's saying. So that's what it's saying. It really is a document that proves human trafficking, and then everybody wants to go authenticate that. And as Anna E. said, it's already got a damn seal on it. It's already authenticated. Then it's a bond, and then they say, well, we're up on Wall Street, but I think you're sitting right there on the other end of the phone. You're not on Wall Street. That picture, that derivative of what your mother called you, whatever she called you was, whatever it was, and then they took what she called you, put it in all caps, right, and made a receipt out of it, and then people say, well, your mother knew about it. She didn't know about it, because if it's a contract that, some places we found in certain states, they have the parents sign the birth. Well, the parents have to sign because the child can't. And then in some they do not, and they never used to. It really doesn't matter whether they did or they didn't, because it's not. You have to know contract law. So for those who think it's a contract, they would have to know that the contract has to have full disclosure. And they didn't have full disclosure to say, oh, this is a certificate.
Exactly.
Change. Right. But see, the persons who are doing this, they don't know contract law, so they're telling everybody it's a contract and you gotta end the contract. Then then they're saying authenticate the birth certificate and go save it. You know, it's craziness.
And you're right. It's not truly a contract at all because there's no signature, there's no full disclosure, and like you said, and understanding what a contract is, that is definitely not a contract.
Right. So those who jumped on that and paid all that finance for that.
Let me say one thing, because this is the conundrum that a lot of Moors, specifically sons, is under. You know, and I had this experience last week. This is about jurisdiction. It's about status and jurisdiction, all right? Look, these people, they know that we're like hamsters on a wheel. Many of us are like hamsters on a wheel. We're just running and going nowhere. These modern Europeans, they know this, right? That's why when you go into their hearing room, they snatch your identification card and your papers, you know, or they totally discount it because they want to hear what you think something is. And here's the thing. This is what it is, all it is. It's status and jurisdiction. 9 times out of 10, the minute you walk into one of these hearings, you're looking at a modern European. Even if it's an Asiatic sitting there, you're in a modern European construct. That's a ministerial officer. They're practicing their Christian religion. That's a modern European. So automatically, we got an issue of diversity. They're Christian. You're a Muslim. Do you know your bloodline? Don't answer the question. Because, see, this is all about bloodline. Do you know your bloodline? Because that's what it's about. That's where the diversity is. It's in the blood. But you got all of these sons trying to get away from their mother, you know, try to paint her as the criminal who signed away her baby by completing a fraudulent document called the birth certificate. Right? So now they're trying to throw mother under the bus and still get a benefit. But the benefit is with mother. So you better pull her from under the bus, bring her into the meeting room with you, because this is about bloodline. You got to do the research. You got to know that you're dealing with a foreign corporation. Why are they a foreign corporation? Because their charter, 9 times out of 10, comes from Great Britain or Spain, all right, or France, all right? So they can have jurisdiction over you, the Aboriginal indigenous being, but how are you Aboriginal indigenous? Because your mother is Asiatic. You ain't come over here on no boat from Africa. This is Africa. That's why when you go in there, it's all about the bloodline, and the prophet also brought the cap, the religion. He said, here we got the bloodline, we're going to cap it off with the religion. What's your religion? Muslim. What's your bloodline? You're Moabite. What's a Moabite? In today's language, Moroccan. So you are lineal descendant, Moroccan, born in America. That's it. Now tell me how you got jurisdiction over me.
Right.
Yes. And I want to add, if you're going to do anything at all, it's called sole, meaning one only, proprietor. Now, be careful with that. It means one who possesses or holds the title to a thing in his own right. The proprietor or owner, one who has the exclusive title to a thing. So if you have a business, and also sole proprietor means that sole proprietor, I just gave you the word of proprietor, but sole proprietor means that it is unincorporated and you handle all of your business or all of whatever that has to do with it yourself. That means you're not incorporated. That's the manner in which you would go. with that. And even in English law. But guess what? Too many people deal with English law on American soil, and English law is, as Amy is saying, that has to do with British law and has nothing to do with, we have to enforce the American national Constitution, not English. Okay? But even in that, it says in civil and in Old English law, propriety means property that which is in one's own ownership, exclusive right to the use. So if you had a name that you were trading in, and you're the sole proprietor, and you are trading with your own business, whatever that name is, or whatever you call it. And if it's sole proprietor, it is not incorporated. You have full title of everything that goes on with it. You have full title of what they call usufruct. That's the name they use. I read that somewhere. Usufruct. And usufruct, and this is how you study to know that what it is that you're really doing, means the right of enjoying a thing of which it is vested in, and to draw from the same all of the profit, utility, and advantage which it may produce, provided it be without altering the substance of the thing. So now we're going back to true merchants, right? And we're going back to all the profits. That means nobody, no income tax, none of that old crap has anything to do with it. So you have to be the sole, S-L-L-E, proprietor of your stuff.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
So with that being said, go ahead.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm just saying.
With that being said, because some of the processes that I've been studying is it's not even necessary to even do a trust because the prophet already set up a trust for us.
Actually,
am I correct?
The prophet did not set up a trust. Can you find it? What the prophet did, he just made known what we are entrusted to is the earth and the resources of the earth.
Okay.
I mean, it's not, you can't go make a trust with corporations. You can't do it. So he just made it known that we are the benefactor. Really, it's like an express trust in that it has to be literally expressed from your mouth that you are ill or obeyed. Why? Because that's the title to the ancestral estate, which includes the land and the resources of the land that they're messing with. I'm trying to keep you from being with, which is why one of those birth certificate redemption things that they're doing is to go and say and bring identification, what they call the nom de guerre, which is the fictitious name, a war name, a name used for the time, right? Or what people call their birth certificate name, whatever they want to call it, the straw, whatever. And say, yes, I am this person. Yes, I am this person. 3 times you do it. And then you go all the way up to the Secretary of State, of Department of State. You go to your local, and then you go to the Secretary of the so-called state, which is a corporation. And then you go to the Department of State, right, which is a quasi-national domicile. All states are, but yet you're claiming you are a national. So, therefore, you can see right there there's something wrong with that, right? And that's to the Department of State, and then they apostille it, which means a glorified notary, right? And then you got to know what notary means. It was really established for people who could not read or write, so you don't get your stuff notarized, you get it sealed, all right? And then after you do that, you say where you're going to be using it at, and you usually claim some other country or some other place somewhere,
right.
Wherever it is, okay? All right, so what did you just do? You just expatriated off of, in a form, you just expatriated off of your ancestral estate with your title ill obey. So they're loving it. They're letting you do it all day long. All day long. Because that's what people have done with this birth certificate redemption thing. They don't even realize it because they didn't study enough to recognize what they were doing. They just probably paid somebody, right? And I bet you paid somebody, didn't you?
No, I refuse to pay.
You did it yourself, but you didn't.
I've been seeing it. Right, I didn't.
Right.
I didn't.
Okay, so I'm telling you what that stuff does. Now you're expatriated off. Has nothing to do with commerce. You don't have to do nothing. Look, the prophet said, if you do nothing else, declare your nationality. Why? Because declare literally means to be clear. But you can stand up and make that declaration, and it doesn't necessarily have to mean printing. But it can be printed. When it's proclaimed, it absolutely must be published. And that's all that we offer people. We tell them, look, be clear. How do you be clear? You can only be what you know. Study. That's how, number one. And then number two, when you're ready to make this proclamation, read it, make sure you understand it, and we'll assist you with that, and we'll seal it. And then you put people on lawful notice. And then the next thing you do is start being who you say you are, because you are the law manifest. So all this commercial stuff is not, they're loving it. We're fattening up these corporations by thinking we have to do all these processes. And who do you pay to do it? You pay them. You're getting them fat. Just like with the UCC, we know what the UCC is, but people were using it to declare their status. How the hell are you going to declare your status? It's about contracts, so you need to go into a contract being an improper person. And then you can go into any contract you wish to. It's so simple in a way that people can't believe how simple it is. But it's also complex because it's so simple. And the only reason that it is one, for lack of study, and two, because of the indoctrination. And we keep thinking that these people that are really corporations doing commerce are actually our government. That's our problem. And so whatever they're doing, some of them think they're getting smart and they're going to figure out how to navigate in commerce and get them. Well, they'll change the statutes on that tomorrow. And that's where I woke up at. The processes that I've been learning wasn't teaching nothing about nationality. And then nationality popped up later, and I was like, whoa, wait a minute. We want to correct our status. It seems that we should be declaring our nationality before we're doing anything else first. Let me ask you this. Before you move on, I want you to finish. Did anyone ever go look up status? I guarantee they did not even look up. Yeah, change your status, change your status. No one looked up status. Status means your standing, your relationship to the rest of the community, but it is not a mere relationship. It is a lawful and legal one. That's what status means. So there you go. You got it right there.
It also means estate, too. When you look up status, in that same definition, says it also means the state. So, you got to keep all of that in mind. That not just your relationship to the community, because it doesn't matter how anybody feels about you. Really, it's a very important aspect, but your descent nature cannot be changed. Your state, your ancestral state, it is what it is. So you're talking about a descent nature, something immutable, and then, your relationship to the community, that's mutable. It is very mutable, and your ancestral state is not. So keep that in mind, too.
Okay.
Islam, I just wanted to say that. Yeah.
I also want to add, yeah, go ahead. If you have something else to say, I'm trying to find something real quick before we move on. That is,
it's another question because I was slowly.
My fault. That's your question, but keep in mind, I don't know if we have other callers, but we did a half hour already, just for the record.
Okay.
And we got Gmails too.
Just the last question, because I'm getting clear. I see what I need to do. The last question is this. Being a Moorish national, distinguishing myself from being a United States citizen, how do we go about getting those Federal Reserve notes to provide for ourselves and our families without being up under their assumed jurisdiction?
You're not. You as a Muslim trade. Yeah, go ahead. You explain it.
What I think, look, there's so many things that we need to get out from under. So what I would suggest you do, and not just you, everybody, make a list of all of them and then work on the least difficult and, just graduate, because there's so many issues that need to be addressed. You're going to have to address them one by one. But you don't even know what those issues are, because I know you probably never made a list. Once you make the list, you have to decide which one do you want to work on first. I would suggest you work on the least difficult one, get your feet wet, and move on.
However, don't you want to explain to him that we can trade in anything that we wish to? It is the modern Europeans that we're supposed to use.
Exactly. See, here's the thing. Right now, the biggest challenge we have is our ability to move, our right to travel. It has been arrested. But we don't have enough people who has really dealt with that, because there's other pie-in-the-sky issues that have come along. That's one issue that needs to be addressed for everybody, individually. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is. All right? Then you got, things like gas, electric, water. Those things will have to be addressed individually. But before you can even address them, you got to do the appropriate resources that come out of the land. Really, at the beginning of the show or the broadcast, I said that these corporations are literally using the people as a source of consistent revenue generation. And so in order for that to change, the people got to wake up and enforce the Constitution. And you got to do it in an intelligent way. All right? So for example, if you're forced to pay an electric bill, well, where's the electricity coming from? These modern Europeans didn't bring that on their back when they came over here. But before you can even talk to the utility company about the electricity, you got to go and do the research to find out how they gain control of that to begin with. It's usually in the state congressional records. But this requires research, and you're not going to be able. I would not suggest you throwing all your issues in the pot and trying to stir them up, because they're all going to fly back at you, and you're going to be overwhelmed. And you know what? You're gonna get frustrated, and you're going to go back to what you used to, what you're comfortable doing.
I agree in part, but I'm definitely taking heed to the facts and the points that y'all making. I don't want to hold up the line too long. Y'all really helped me out a whole lot. Most definitely.
All right, peace and love
to pick up on. So I yield the floor, Islam.
All right,
Islam.
All right, our next caller is caller 313-350. You're live on the air. Please state your appellation at Northwest New Mexico.
Islam family, this is RVBey, the young brother, young son. How's the family tonight?
All right.
Great.
All is well.
Everybody is good. Yeah, I am just so thankful, always coming in that spirit of thanks to you all. I'm not going to hold the line, but what the brother earlier, those questions was definitely needed for the family. A lot of our young brothers and sisters that are coming into, the knowledge and information, man. There's so many people misleading you on information, man. It's just good to be able to speak with the family. So I recognize what he felt, and it was definitely warranted. But again, I just wanted to connect with the family. I made a a domicile change from the Michigan area to California area. And boy, oh boy, I got a chance to experience driving across our land with my family.
Well, let me just say this real quick.
Yes.
I don't mean to cut your wisdom, but everything you just said is colored. All due respect, everything you just said is colored. Yup. Everything you just said, colored.
Okay.
Colored in your law dictionary, meaning it's fake. It's a simulacrum. Not that you intended it to be that. I'm just going to briefly explain why before you continue.
Yeah.
Okay, you said you changed your domicile from Michigan to California. Those are both corporate.
My domicile area. Yeah.
Yeah, but really you didn't, because your domicile is national. If you are an Aboriginal, if you are Moor, you should, at this particular point, not that you're wrong, but you should understand the upgrade of concept from having a national domicile opposed to a quasi-national domicile. So you just named two quasi-national domiciles, one being Michigan, one being California. When in the national domicile, you understand that you're always home, whether they're calling the land Michigan or they're calling the land California or they're calling it Louisiana, if they're calling it Florida, North Carolina, Wisconsin, all of that to you being a Moor is your national domicile as far as the land is concerned. And then you got to understand the difference between driving and traveling, because driving is commercial. I don't know if you was doing the Mack truck thing and you got your CDLs. If that's the case, then you were driving. But if you were just regularly going to, there you go. That's de jure. That's not colored.
Yes.
So you move to another part of your national domicile. That's the real fact.
My brother. I just gotta say thank you, because you know what, I do know that information, but you know what, yes I do, and I have studied, and I've mentioned that before, the difference between driving and traveling. And yes, this is all our national domicile. It's not the quasi-national colorable titles that they put on our land. And I definitely agree with you. Thank you, brother. That's what I'm talking about. The family is always there for us. But again, I just wanted to say that our land, so much beauty. Yeah. It was so much beauty to experience going through those mountains and those valleys and those hills and those flatlands, and just seeing the beauty of it was just amazing. So I just wanted to share with the family that if you haven't got a chance to travel our national domicile, not our quasi-national colorable
there you go, bro.
Yes, traveling, not drive. You should do it. I'm outside right now under the stars, and I'm just really enjoying, being as far west as west goes at this part of our land, and it's something to be close to the Pacific and be able to experience the energy over here. So, again, family, I don't want to hold up everybody. I want to definitely just, peace and love to everybody. I always appreciate the broadcast. It's always a lot of information, and thank you so much, family, for all that you all do.
We're glad you had safe travels.
Yes. Islam.
All right, peace and love.
And love, and one.
Peace.
All right, our next caller is Brother Bakari.
All right.
Nah.
Greetings. Oh gosh, wonderful show. I just wanted to, I just wanted to call and say, wonderful show, and honors to the panel. I just wanted to say briefly, and then I'll yield the floor. Is that I do remember watching one of these YouTube videos, and I've been searching for it, but I couldn't find it. And it was a video on how the meat industry is impacting the environment, because they like to say that they've implemented certain procedures that minimize the impact on the environment, et cetera, when in fact the amount of feces that the hybrid cows make requires the use of so many thousands of gallons of water to clean. And so the feces impact the soil, and then you have to clean that up, and then you have to use water, and then you have to use so much water to feed these, to keep these, cows going, the chickens, pigs, etc. And so it is more cost. It costs more to generate and maintain than it does to implement other measures to feed yourself, such as being a vegetarian. And then when you factor in the space that the creatures take up, that the animals take up, and then the food that you have to provide them with, it is just grossly insane. It is just insane. So it's like an intentional process that is utilized to keep people eating this type of hybridized food, which even without the modification is a hybrid type food, and anything that's a hybrid is acidic. So even without genetically modifying it, it's already bad for the human body. It's already not healthy for the human body. So, but I just wanted to share that, and at some point, once I find that video, I'll share it with you guys.
Food Inc. It's Food Inc.
Food Inc. Yeah, and it just breaks it down. I mean, it gives you all the numbers and everything. It's a wonderful video. All right, so that's it. I just wanted to share that. Islam.
All right, Islam.
Really good.
All right. This is the last caller. Caller 443-37. You're live on the air. Please state your appellation at Northwest Mexican.
Islam. I am Hassan RVBey at Northwest Mexican. How is my family?
Fine.
Indeed. It's a few of us on the line. Okay, it's guys. You want to speak up? Islam.
Say that again.
I was saying it was somebody else. It was Brother Devon Robinson Ill was on the line with me as well.
Peace. Everything well?
Right.
I was hoping he was here. It's a few of us actually on the line, but I know that him and I specifically just wanted to call in. We saw someone had brought to Brother Devon's attention, and I did send it in an email as well. I wish I would have a little bit quicker with it. But long story short, the brother was like, whoa, did you read, as far as the witness in the ceiling or whatever, and we just wanted to just call in and just say, look, any way that we can assist in our respective territories where we are, we will. We get it. I mean, the oral statements and prophecy says you're going to need 16 secretaries just to take names. So we wanted to just basically, just put on the record that we definitely can see, even from afar, that, why there are a lot of people that's coming across the information and why there's a delay that's happening. So we just wanted to put on the record first and foremost that, we will do what we need to do in our respective territories to educate the people, to look at the paperwork, because you guys need the assistance. And we knew that, last year. We really did. This was conversations we were having last year. So
what do you mean that you would? What do you mean by assisting? You mean by assisting to make sure that the people in your area follow the instructions? What are you saying?
Well, indeed, I think what it was somebody had brought to our attention that the witnessing at the ceiling is to be now the protocol has now been amended.
Oh, yeah,
so
you know what? I just added that.
No. Yeah. No. Let me just clarify that, because for some reason people started thinking that they did not need to find witnesses. That was never the process.
Right.
Everybody who has paid, who's completing the name correction and proclamation, they are obligated to find witnesses, Moors declared, to autograph. That has always been the process. Always. We have attempted to assist those people who are in remote areas and don't have anyone. But now it's like people think, it can only get witnessed by, when it is being sealed. They've grossly misinterpreted witnessing at the sealing to mean we're going to witness and you don't have to at the sealing. No, that was never the process. And that was just recently added, and people took it out of context. So it has now been reiterated that if there are two or more of you, you need to witness each other's documents and then send it in. That was always the process.
Oh, that's crazy. Okay. Now, just for the record, I want to make this clear. This makes so much sense to me now, because somebody approached me like, yo, I heard Somebody approached me like, yo, I heard Great Seal kind of shut down the sealing process that y'all was doing. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? Like,
oh my God!
I'm like, yo, what?
You got to explain everything to the T. See,
I had to say, what the F are you talking about? Like, what? Like, yo, I'm hearing like all types of crazy shit. It makes sense now because I didn't know that was okay. It makes, but a lot of things make sense now. Because I'm like, what? Like, who would say something like that? Like, really? Like, yo, that's crazy. Okay. Excuse me, because that one went over my head.
So now
I'm glad I got your answer.
And I got to, listen, this is crazy. Now I got to go in and I got to draw every little detail for every person who, some things we don't even want to be known on how exactly it's done. So to say, we said to people who said to us, I don't have anybody to witness. They literally might be in a remote area. And the prophet said, if you're by yourself, be by yourself, right? So we offered that, just as we just explained. So now when it's become overwhelming, because 5 people will be from the same group, an area. They all in a study group. And all 5 of them will send in their documents unsigned when it's 5 of them so they can get their own witnesses. So now I got to sit here and explain that to the detail. And there's certain things we just didn't want to make detail of. It's crazy. So now they interpret that as the sealing process is shut down. Now I got to go back in and explain it, Annie. This is craziness.
I don't think, Islam, I don't think, like, when me and Brother Devon was looking at it, like, we was looking at it like, okay, well, if that means, and we had spoken to a brother that we hold dear in our heart, and in speaking to that brother, I won't say his appellation, speaking to that brother, it's like, what do you expect, if there's, people, out there and they got study groups and stuff or whatever, and, and you're talking about having a witness, like, if you're saying you're national and you're saying you're studied, like, there has to be a certain time in your study where you're opening your Black's Law Dictionary, you're looking at witness, you're looking at the definition for seal, you're understanding that you're going back to your ancient mindset of your foremothers and forefathers, so what was they sealing with before you was trying to get a bas-relief gold seal? Like, our ancestors was literally cutting themselves and sealing their prints in blood. You know what I mean? Putting their appellations in blood. So that was like the highest seal is your right thumbprint. Like, but it seemed like people aren't thinking like that. But it's like in studying, this last year and a half, I would say 18 months or so. You know what I mean? Like my alarm clock, like I said, just went off at the end of 2014, and just like continuously going back to like RVBey publications and going back to the Moorish Nation public records, and just really just not just observing the literature. I am doing that, of course, but also looking at how it looks. How is it being presented? Like, what is the structure of the language? Like you know what I'm saying? Like, what is the context? What is the climate? You know what I mean? And sometimes we kind of have fun, like myself and Brother Devon, and there's a few of us. We actually have fun, like kind of like bouncing off the concepts of like time traveling in the documents. So it's like we'll look at something that was in the Articles of Association and then look at it today, and it's like, dude. So that's basically what's going on now, but it's like they remixed it. They like put their Diddy on it, but it's instead of it looking like A, now it looks like Z. But it's still the same song and dance. They just changed their costume, so to speak. But it's the same act. You know what we're saying. But other than that, as far as the witnessing thing, we was just saying, like, in lieu of that, you know, if there needs to be any help, we kind of got the message, but we was just wanted to kind of put it on the record, like we really want to help you guys, and we're doing our best that we can, like, because the questions that we get sometimes, we kind of see, like, I can see, let me speak for myself, I can see when I used to ask questions, like, about a year ago, I can see how much I really wasn't reading. And I had to admit to myself when people ask questions and I give them, like, hey, man, go and read X, Y, and Z, and then they come back, and I know I, like, gave them everything that they need to really read and study, but they come back and ask another question. It's like, okay, I see myself now. I can see what I did last year because I wasn't, like, getting, like, oh, if I really want to understand this language and the culture and how it's written, I need to go and check the etymology of these words so I can understand the context in which it's written. But I can see that we have to be a lot more, I guess, compassionate in seeing that some people don't. Everybody, you know, Islam happens in degrees, you know, as Brother Gray said. So
I know what you're saying, which means we have to kind of literally, pun on words, spell it out, because we are totally aware that a lot of our people have been, by design, not taught to read.
Right.
Can't read, can't comprehend. We already know that. But you know, we do the best we can. So guess what? I just now republished and explained that, because I would have never guessed in a million years that they thought that meant that the ceiling was closed down. That means they're not paying attention to the fact that their documents need two witnesses that are Moors. That means that's what it means to us. That's what it really means to us. That they don't even understand what is being done. So well, I'm at it, and I'm going to read it right now because, my goodness, I would have never assumed that is how it would have been, how it would have been taken, my Lord. So it says, we can no longer witness that view.
I couldn't understand it for the life of me. I'm like, yo, where are you getting this from? Like, what? Like, yes, and this was a credible being. This was a credible Moor I was talking to. I'm like, yo, I know you ain't that high. Like, come on, man. Like, come on. You know what I mean? Like,
well, first of all, you know, if somebody even came to that conclusion, what they just told you is they didn't even go to the website. Because,
no, but it wasn't them. This was the word that the word that they were getting. Like, they was telling me because they heard it from somebody else and didn't believe it themselves. Right. So that's why they asked me. They're like, yo, did Great Seal shut y'all down from sailing? I'm like, what? Like, yo, we interrelated with all of it. What are you talking about? Like, I don't know. We'll talk about it later, but that was just crazy. I didn't even think you're worthy to, like, even mention it, because I'm like, yo, that's crazy talk. I don't know what you're talking about. I just really didn't. So I didn't think nothing else of it. You know what I mean? After that day.
Oh, my God, that is so crazy. I mean, but I mean, I know what you're saying. We're still giving all the instructions, but when it gets to that part, 13.3 part, it says we will no longer witness. Witness. They didn't say we were no longer sealing. God damn. I mean, will we? Oh, my God. I can't.
We got it. Me and Brother Devon was like, cool. We already understand we're not going to fill out the vizier part. We're not going to do the sealing part. We're just witnessing. We're just making sure, okay, is this a modern European or is this a Moabite? Cool, that we're witnessing to that. Are we witnessing them actually reading it and understanding and knowing actually how to stand on this just in front of us in concept, in conversation? Can we bounce off concepts? Because that's what me and Brother Devon Robinson Hill enjoy doing with the family. We call it Concept Correction 101, but we get that from you guys.
You know what we really have to witness on, and that's what Anna E. does all day, is that nobody alters it and adds dumb stuff like the Declaration of Independence and craziness like that. But wow, I never in a million years thought that people would go to the instructions, see all of the instructions, and then on that part where it says you are obligated to find 2 witnesses, we can no longer witness that sealing as it causes delays. Okay, I needed to add, this does not mean we are not sealing anymore, and I've added it now. It means if you know or have other Moors with or around you, have them signed as the witness. There's 2 parts on there for witnesses' signatures on the name correction and on the judicial notice. That's where the witness is. You're not the witness. You're the actual person that's doing it, and you require the vizier who seals it, and then 2 witnesses. People aren't really reading these proclamations, obviously, if they made that type of assumption.
Right.
And then here's the thing. The real reason is we didn't mind and still don't mind doing it for those who don't have witnesses. But they took it and ran with it like we're the only ones that will do the witness. And it put a lot of burden on us and delays the paperwork because now we get together twice a month, maybe 3 times when we can, and have to hold up your paperwork just to get 2 Moors outside of the vizier, outside of your own signature, of course, to do the witnessing, and we have to call it witnessing as sealing, which really we really shouldn't do that. We're like, forget it. It's too much because everybody thinks that the only people that can witness it is us. And so we wanted to kill that noise and make the process move faster. Send them in with, I know got 2 Moors around you, especially when we were finding that these people were sending them in as groups. You tell me that the brother sitting next to you or the sister sitting next to you can't witness it. That way when you send it in, she can send it back much quicker. But if not, you're going to wait 2 weeks, possibly, just for that. And then complain, it takes too long. So here we're going to fix that. Find your own witnesses, which is what you're supposed to do anyway. And now we got to expose all this. It's crazy. Just trying to help those who absolutely needed the help. And the rest of the instructions didn't change, so why would they assume that we stopped sealing? I don't get that. I don't even understand how anybody could read that. And it's so that it's not.
That's why
the underlying word on the street, man. That's the underlying word on the street. You know what I mean? I say that with no jurisdiction right now. That's the word on the street. You know what I mean?
Oh my God!
I'll say,
it's great.
No, but I say everything you just said. We need to clip that soundbite and post that. You know what I mean? So it's because some people are audio learners, some people are visual learners, and some are reading learners. So we have to make it available for the audio learners. Everything you just said, we need to clip that, post that on the site. Facts. So,
it's already there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's already there. True. But just in case they didn't read it right, they need to hear it clear. I don't know. You know what I mean? So, yeah, that's just my add-on to that. Islam.
All right.
On the street.
Oh, I'm adding so they can have a sip. Hey, this will fix it. I've just added it. after I put, we can no longer witness that feeling. This does not mean we are not feeling anymore. It means if you know or have other Moors with or around you, have them sign as the witness. Please know that if you do not send them in with the 2 witnesses, they will be delayed. I bet you that'll make them move faster because that's what they complain about. There you go. Done.
Yeah. You know, I mean, you might have to say that 7 times, you know. Overdraw lease is 33 times and they didn't get it. I think you might have to say 7. I don't know. I just don't know. But, you know, emphasize it like you said.
Put it on 7 times.
Islam family. I know y'all only got 2 more minutes left on the broadcast. Thank y'all so much. And
thanks for bringing that to our attention. We would have never assumed that people thought that, but we can see how now, and yeah.
That's what my unpredictable hair sounded like before Frizz-Eyes. Sound familiar? We'll stop the crunchiness and celebrate your curls with Frizz-Eyes Air Dry Waves. It gives you defined, touchable waves with soft, feather-light movement. No heat required and no frizz. And that's the sound you'll hear and